Right now, Steelers fans need to lock in, because what we're about to talk about could shape the entire direction of Pittsburgh's offense in 2026. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this could be the difference between a playoff-caliber team and one that once again struggles to find consistency through the air. We are just weeks away from the NFL draft. The pressure is building, the expectations are rising, and there is one glaring issue that continues to stand out when you look at this roster closely, something that might not jump out to casual fans at first glance. But once you really break it down, it becomes impossible to ignore, and that is the current state of the Steelers' wide receiver room. On the surface, you might feel confident. You might say, "We've got DK Metcalf, we've got Michael Pittman Jr. That's a solid duo. What's the problem?" But the deeper you go, the more you realize that this group is incomplete, and not just slightly incomplete, but missing a critical piece that modern NFL offenses simply cannot function without. And before we go any further, I want you to really think about this question because it matters more than ever right now. What is the biggest need for this Pittsburgh Steelers team heading into the 2026 NFL Draft? Is it offensive line? Is it defense? Is it quarterback depth? Or is it wide receiver? Because in my opinion, and what I'm about to lay out for you, wide receiver is not just a need, it's the priority. And if they get this wrong, it could limit everything they're trying to build offensively this season. When you look at the current wide receiver depth chart, yes, DK Metcalf brings that physical dominance, that elite straight-line speed, that ability to turn a short gain into a massive play after the catch. And yes, Michael Pittman Jr. brings toughness, reliability, the ability to move the chains and win in traffic. But after those two, things start to fall off quickly. Roman Wilson is a name that a lot of fans still want to believe in, and I understand that, because the potential is there, the flashes are there, but relying on potential in the NFL is one of the fastest ways to get burned. We saw it last season when the Steelers put a lot of faith in him taking that next step, becoming that reliable third option, and it simply didn't happen. It got to the point where the team had to adjust mid-season, bringing in veterans to stabilize the position, and that alone should tell you everything you need to know about how risky it is to depend on him again in 2026. And it's not just about Roman Wilson. When you continue down the depth chart, you see players who have roles, but not necessarily roles as impactful, consistent receivers in a high-functioning passing offense. Some are better suited for special teams, some are blockers, some are developmental players. And while those pieces matter, they do not solve the core issue, which is the lack of a true, reliable, dynamic wide receiver 3. Now here's where things get even more interesting, because the Steelers' offensive philosophy, especially under a system that leans on multiple receiver sets, demands depth and versatility at the wide receiver position. You cannot survive in today's NFL with just two primary targets. Defenses are too smart, too fast, too adaptable. They will take away what you do best if you don't have enough weapons to counter. And right now, if Pittsburgh goes into the season with this exact setup, defenses are going to focus heavily on DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman Jr., and they're going to dare someone else to beat them. And that leads us to one of the most important strategic points in this entire discussion, and that is how defenses will choose to play against the Steelers. Last season, one of the biggest trends was how often Pittsburgh faced man coverage, and that wasn't by accident. Defenses recognized that there wasn't enough separation ability across the receiving core, and they also knew that the quarterback situation didn't present a major rushing threat, so they felt comfortable playing tight, aggressive coverage. And when you combine those two factors, you create an environment where the passing game becomes predictable, limited, and much easier to defend. This is exactly why the type of wide receiver the Steelers need is not just any receiver, but a very specific kind of player. They need a true man-to-man separator, someone who can win routes consistently, someone who can create space quickly, someone who can force defenders to respect their ability to get open at all levels of the field. Because once you introduce that kind of threat into the offense, everything changes. Defenses can no longer sit in man coverage as comfortably. They start to shift into zone looks more frequently. They begin to hesitate. They adjust their schemes. And that is where a smart, experienced quarterback thrives. Because let's talk about the quarterback situation for a moment. If you're relying on a quarterback who operates best within structure, someone who reads defenses, anticipates movements, and picks apart coverage with precision rather than mobility, then you need to create the right conditions for that skill set to shine. That means forcing defenses into zone coverage, where intelligence, timing, and accuracy become the deciding factors. But if your receivers cannot beat man coverage, you never even get to that point. You're stuck dealing with tight windows, contested throws, and limited options down the field. And this is why the stakes are so high. This is not just about adding another name to the roster. This is about unlocking the full potential of the offense. This is about making sure that the passing game evolves instead of stagnates. This is about giving the quarterback the tools needed to succeed at a high level. Now let's take it a step further, because even if the Steelers decide to address this need through the draft, that comes with its own set of challenges. Not every rookie wide receiver is ready to contribute immediately. In fact, most aren't. The transition from college to the NFL is one of the toughest jumps in all of sports, especially at the wide receiver position, where route precision, timing, and chemistry with the quarterback are absolutely critical. And when you're dealing with a quarterback who has high expectations, who demands precision, who relies heavily on trust and timing, the margin for error becomes even smaller. So if Pittsburgh is going to draft a receiver to fill this role, they need someone who is not just talented, but polished. Someone who understands route running at a professional level. Someone who can step into the system and adapt quickly. Someone who can earn trust fast. Because if that connection doesn't develop early, the entire plan starts to fall apart. And that brings us to the bigger picture of roster construction. The Steelers have multiple draft picks this year, which gives them flexibility, which gives them options, but it also increases the importance of making the right decisions. You can take multiple receivers, you can add depth, you can build for the future, but that first selection at the position, that first major investment, has to be right. Because that player is likely going to be expected to contribute immediately, to step into a meaningful role, and to help define the identity of the passing game moving forward. At the same time, the team also has the option to look beyond the draft. Free agency and trades are still on the table, and sometimes bringing in a veteran can solve multiple problems at once. A veteran receiver brings experience, consistency, and a level of reliability that is hard to find in a rookie. They understand the game, they understand defenses, and most importantly, they know how to adjust on the fly. And when you're trying to build chemistry quickly, that experience can make a huge difference. But even that path comes with its own considerations. Cost, fit, timing, and long-term planning all come into play. Do you invest heavily in a veteran who might only be a short-term solution? Or do you build through the draft and hope that your investment pays off quickly? These are the kinds of decisions that front offices are judged on. And for Pittsburgh, this might be one of the most important decisions of the entire offseason. Because when you step back and look at everything, the conclusion becomes clear. The Steelers are not far away from having a complete offense. The foundation is there. The pieces are there. But without that one missing element, without that true third receiver who can stretch the field, create separation, and force defenses to adjust, the offense risks becoming predictable. And in today's NFL, predictability is the fastest way to fall behind. So as we get closer to the draft, as the rumors heat up, as the speculation grows, keep your eyes on this position because it matters more than most people realize. This is not just another roster move. This is a defining moment. And whether it's through the draft, free agency, or a trade, the Steelers have to get this right. And now I want to hear from you, because this is where your opinion comes into play. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it for Pittsburgh to find the right wide receiver 3 this offseason? Is it something that would be nice to have, or is it absolutely critical to the team's success? Because based on everything we just broke down, this might be the move that determines how far this team can go in 2026.